guys, this is Lord Chael speaking on behalf of our show sponsor, Established Titles. Established Titles is a project based on a Scottish custom where landowners are referred to as lords and ladies. They allow you to buy as little as 1 square foot of dedicated land so you can officially call yourself a lord or a lady. Established Titles is not just about your ego. You also get to do some good. In addition to your new fancy title, Established Titles supports global charities like One Tree Planet and Trees for the Future to help with the afforestation effort. Your title pack gets you at least 1 square foot of dedicated land in a private estate in Scotland. Your certificate features a unique plot number where you can see the exact location of your land. And right now, Established Titles is holding 200 plots of land right next to mine. So come join me in the Bad Guy Inc. Kingdom. Getting this certificate even allows you to officially change your name to Lord or Lady. Put it on your credit card, put it on your plane tickets, or if you're so inclined, put it on your dating profile. Makes for a great last-minute gift, and there's even couples packs that come with adjoining plots of land. Established Titles is having a great limited-time sale. Go to establishedtitles.com/Chael to save 10% off today. Remember to use the promo code Chael, or just click on the link below. The Thrilla in Manila. You guys heard about this? Did you see it or did you hear about it? And there's no wrong answer. I didn't get to see it, but I heard about it. I know all of that Thrilla in Manila. My goodness, I know all about it. What's another big fight? St. Pierre versus Bisping for double champ status. Daniel Cormier versus Miocic Part 1 for double champ status. Ortiz versus Shamrock for the lightweight championship of the world. I mean, I could go on and on. There's some big fights, right? You remember the night that Mike Tyson bit Evander Holyfield's ear? I mean, that fight lives on, possibly more for notorious as opposed to famous, right? Infamous as opposed to famous reasons, but it does live on. What's another big one, guys? Throw a big one at me. Lennox Lewis versus Mike Tyson. Remember that press conference? There was suspension involved, and Tyson was going to step on his testicles. He was going to eat his children. I mean, this thing got pretty intense. You remember that fight? What about the rematch between Tyson and Evander Holyfield? There has been some massive events. Khabib Nurmagomedov, they built an arena for him. The debut in New York State. Eddie Alvarez and Conor McGregor. There was some massive events. Does anybody disagree that those fights that I just named are absolutely massive? Okay, here's the deal. Tell me who judged those fights, any of them. I just threw 7 or 8 at you. Tell me the name of one of the judges. I'm waiting. Go ahead. Oh, you could cheat. I know you don't know. Feel free to cheat. Ask Siri. Go to Google and tell me who those judges are. Just one of them. There was 3 to choose from. You don't know it, do you? There was a massive fight 2 days ago between Islam and Charles Oliveira. Just happened. I don't want to ask you a trick question in the books and think. Let me go back 3 days. Who judged that fight? Huge fight coming up. It's going to be at Madison Square Garden. Pereira versus Adesanya. The world is waiting. Who's judging that fight? Fight even closer. It's this weekend. We got a YouTube sensation named Paul. He's taking on Anderson Silva. Who's judging that fight? You have the foggiest idea. Now, I bring this to you because you'll never get around this when you're in show business. Anything that involves cameras and is going to involve recognition, you will never get around this. From the good men and women that sweep the building up, to the person that puts your makeup on ahead of time, to the person that lays out the clothing that you're going to wear. They all want to be the director. They all want to be part of the show. We have had people in this sport that are no longer part of this sport because they weren't part of the show. They were part of getting ready, the people that go onto camera. But they found a way to camera themselves. They found catchphrases themselves. They went out and got sponsors themselves because they thought they were part of the show. It's hard. It's a really tough one. It's a really tough one. It's human nature. You see those lights and cameras and you want to be involved so bad. Now, you don't want to get in there. You don't want to do the training. You don't want to throw the punches, but you want to be involved. It's just one of these tough spots. Look, I just threw you a whole bunch of fights. Who judged them? Just tell me one name. You'd have all the fights that I named, and you'd have times 3. And I just want one of those judges' names. That's all I'm asking you. And I told you can cheat. You call a friend. You can look on the internet. You do whatever you want. I'm just asking you for a name. And we now have a judge named Feldman. Now, you might remember Jake Paul was sued recently for $500 million by Eddie Hearn over at Matchroom Boxing. If I'm wrong, it's called Matchstick Boxing. So Matchroom Boxing is going to sue Jake Paul because Jake Paul claimed that they fix fights. Jake Paul not only didn't apologize, he doubled down and he gave an instance. He brought up Usyk versus Anthony Joshua. Jake Paul brought up the fact that it was obvious to everybody involved, including Anthony Joshua's team, that Usyk ran away with it, but it was a split decision. One judge gave it to Joshua. That judge is by the name of Feldman, and that judge is now joined in the lawsuit, or at least with the theme of a similar lawsuit, and he's going to sue Jake Paul. He's suing him for defamation. Now, you're going to get into law, and you're going to get into international law, and all you're going to have is different opinions, and it's all going to come around. Eventually, Feldman, who's broke, isn't going to be able to defend himself in this lawsuit, and the whole thing's going to go away, but he's trying to prove a point. He's trying to prove a point that he has had his name dragged through the mud. I sat down and researched this piece before I spoke to you. I just read his name right now, and I'm not looking to be a condescending jerk. But my phone's, I just did this. I don't know his name. The last name's Feldman. I don't know this man's first name. I don't know anything about him. I know where he's from. If he walked in the room right now and slapped me in the face, I would not be able to tell people who came in and hit me. I just want to know. But neither do you and neither does anybody else. But in Feldman's mind, he's a meaningful character and he has been begrudged by Jake Paul. Now, I never would have talked to Feldman. I never would have said the name Feldman. I would have never said the piece. Jake Paul has served this person. This person needs attention so badly that they're willing to go and get an attorney that they cannot afford to get a headline, which I guarantee you they're relishing in, and they've texted and they've sent it all over the world. Feldman's a little embarrassed right now because he knows that he just texted and sent this to all of his friends, and his friends are seeing the same thing. Dave, Chael's over there saying you're making a test for attention. He says he doesn't know your name or anything about you, and he said that you took this headline and you sent it to a bunch of people, and God, Dave, you really did. You sent it to me. It's impossible to tell somebody that's at a show that they aren't part of the show. And it's mean. You'll hurt people's feelings. There is an executive director who's no longer in charge that was out in Nevada. This guy didn't even show up to events. This guy was asleep at the wheel. They brought something in called The Ultimate Fighter, but they let the world know they were going to bring cameras and air The Ultimate Fighter. By God, he never missed a weigh-in. It didn't matter if it was Tuesday, Friday. It didn't matter if it was at 2 a.m. He was going to be there if you had the camera, and he never did. In the history of The Ultimate Fighter, until they fired the man, he weighed every single person in. I only use that as an example. They want to be part of the show so bad. And the problem that Paul ran into. Okay, here's the good news for Paul. He has not hurt Feldman. He hasn't hurt Feldman. Because nobody knows who Feldman is. There's no damage done to Feldman, which the law is going to require that he sees. So Feldman is going to be on third base wearing a catcher's mitt, having to write a check that is going to bounce to an attorney who's not going to do the job tomorrow. I mean, I'm just sharing this with you. Unless you find an attorney who is equally as hungry for a headline that may or may not exist on a .com. He's going to have to show a damage, but he's not been damaged because nobody knows who he is to start with. Problem that Paul ran into is when Feldman turned in a ridiculous decision, which is where Paul should have left it. That's where he should have left it. He went further and said that he did it because he was paid by Eddie Hearn's organization, Matchstick. That's the problem. Now, that can't be an opinion. That has to be factual. That either happened or it didn't. That's where the problem comes in. I don't believe at all that Matchstick paid a judge. But Jake Paul and his claim and his premise still holds up to a degree. I mean, if you watched Usyk and you watched Joshua, you saw a very clear adjudication that almost didn't go the right way, and it was almost because of Feldman. So it's going to be one of these interesting spots. But it would be very hard to say, like, somewhere in Feldman's life, he's enjoying this today. I've been caught by people who are bit by the bug. You will see attorneys go on the news for celebrities on a daily basis. They're out there telling, and I'm sitting there watching, go, that's illegal. That's attorney-client privilege. Why are you agreeing to NBC, CBS, MSNBC? Why are you spending your day on the couch popping around? You're not doing that for your client. You're not attempting to taint a jury pool. You got bit by the bug. You get to have an opportunity to be on camera because you've got the right client. It's a very slippery slope. And that client's paying you big money. You should be in an office somewhere protecting their case, but you're not. You're flying to New York. You're lobbing around Los Angeles. It's one of these really weird things. And now Feldman's part of it, and Paul's going to have to answer for it. I mean, this thing's going to get dismissed because ultimately Feldman has no damages. We don't know who he is. We don't begrudge him in the least. We're not going to take opportunities from him. He's a lowly judge that barely gets paid to sit there and check a box. But not in his mind. In his mind, he's part of the show. And Paul attempted, he never should have built the bridge to a financial guarantee between Hearn and Feldman. He shouldn't have done that. That is wrong. He can't prove that. At the same time, when you have a performer in front of a camera and they're out there entertaining, how exact and how literal do they really need to be?